Hey everyone, welcome to Barter Hordes. My name is Robert, and today is day 3 of March Malt Madness. At the beginning of the month, I took 32 single malt scotches and paired them up randomly, and each day we advance one to the next round and eliminate one. So by the end of March, there'll be 31 eliminations and one whiskey left standing. Tonight's matchup is between one of the very first bottles of single malt scotch I ever bought, which is the Highland Park 12-year Viking Honor is what they call it. Highland Park has gone through a rebranding in recent years, really playing into the historical ties to the Viking culture. They're up in the Orkney Islands. And so it's an island scotch as opposed to the other ones that we've been trying so far. It is described a lot of times as an easy scotch to introduce somebody into peat. I have never really thought of it as being a really peated scotch. It's not very heavily peated at all. It's more, for me, more of a sherry scotch because this one is matured completely in European and American sherry casks for the 12 years. This is an interesting matchup between these two bottles because Highland Park is bottled at 43% ABV, Glen Scotia 15's at 46% ABV. Highland Park has no artificial coloring, but it is chill filtered, whereas Glen Scotia, it's not chill filtered, but it probably is adding some artificial coloring. It's hard to get an exact answer on that. But from what I've read, they may be doing away with their artificial coloring in the future. And so I'm not sure if this bottle actually has any artificial coloring in it or not. But the Highland Park is natural color. It's a little bit darker because of the sherry influence. The Glen Scotia is matured in ex-bourbon barrels, first fill and refill barrels, and then at the very end it is finished ever so briefly in Oloroso sherry casks, but it's primarily ex-bourbon maturation, and there is not any peat in the Glen Scotia. It's not a peated whiskey, whereas there is a little bit of peat in the Highland Park. Highland Park is available in North Carolina. It's $63. Glen Scotia is not available in North Carolina. In fact, there are no Campbelltown whiskeys available in North Carolina. So I got this one in Chicago and it's $70, but that one's a little bit harder to find. Glen Scotia has a whiskey that just last year won the online Scotch Whisky Awards Whiskey of the Year, which is their Victoriana whiskey. But I've never seen a bottle of that anywhere I've been. And so it's one of those ongoing unicorn searches for me. So it's an interesting matchup. Two different styles. We've got Campbelltown here, we got Islands here. This is about as north as you can go in Scotland and stay in Scotland. This is down in the southwest. And so it's different regions, different styles, different maturations, different alcohol by volume percentages, all sorts of things that are different about these two. So this will be an unusual matchup. When you first smell the Highland Park, what I remember from it, yeah, I don't even notice any peat smoke at first. What I notice is honey. I notice a lot of fruits, which you expect with a sherry influenced scotch. It's like deep, rich red fruits. There might be just an ever so slight hint of smoke there, but that's really not what comes across first when you smell it. The Glen Scotia has no peat at all, so you don't expect anything like the peat that you get from the Springbank we had a couple nights ago. Very sweet, vanilla, maybe even some fruits there too, but the first thing that I notice is vanilla, maybe even a little bit of honey, but it's much sweeter than the darker, richer fruits of the sherry influence. If I had to choose one just based on the aroma, I probably would choose the Glen Scotia, but I have found in the past that what you smell doesn't always equate to what you taste. And so I'm not going to judge it based on the aromas alone, but it is an interesting comparison. And then I've also noticed, and I've read somewhere that this is true of men in general, that we tend to get overloaded in our sense of smell fairly quickly. For instance, if you're going to shop for cologne and you smell 2 or 3 different samples, after the third one you can't smell anything, they all smell the same. I have found that's true of me when I'm just going based on the smells alone, that they start to all just blend together after a while. So let's taste them and find out. That is way richer than I remember it. Dark fruits, for sure. A tiny little bit of spice, but nothing aggressive. For 43% ABV, I'm surprised it carries that powerful a flavor. When it wraps up on the finish, it feels just a little bit dry. But that could be a sherry influence. I have discovered in the past 6 or 7 months or so that I'm not as big a fan of a super sherry bomb whiskey. A lot of people, that's their favorite profile. I have found that that's not my favorite profile, but if it's done really well, and this balances really well with that tiny little bit of peat smoke, that it's really enjoyable. Okay, now non-peated. Into the vanilla zone again. I'm not exactly sure what it is I'm tasting on the sides of my tongue. There's a little bit of spiciness, whether it's some kind of almost feels like a cinnamon or a clove or something like that. I'm not sure. Could just be my imagination too. The first time I tasted the Glen Scotia, I wasn't all that impressed with it. And I've heard that a lot of people experience what they call the neck pour, the first pour out of a bottle before any air gets in there to interact with the whiskey is sometimes weird compared to the rest of the bottle. And I think that may have been true for me because I'm enjoying this way more than I remember enjoying the first pour I had out of this bottle. And this bottle, as you can see, is getting close to being finished. I've had it for quite a while. And as it's had more and more air in it, it's opened up some too. And I remember it being, or I don't remember it being as tasty as it is right now. This can be tough. I thought I knew which one I was going to pick based on the aromas, but now I don't know. When I go backwards and taste the Glen Scotia first and then the Highland Park seems just a little bit flatter. It doesn't have the broad range of flavors that I'm getting from the Glen Scotia, but this is extremely close. I enjoy both of these and I could see either one of them advancing. But I think tonight I'm going to advance the Glen Scotia for being just a little bit more flavorful. Although I've got a newfound appreciation for the Highland Park and that sherry influence that I didn't think was my profile. I've really enjoyed this. I would really like to try, Highland Park has a 12-year-old cask strength that I have not seen in the stores, but I think it's available some places online. If I come across one of those, I'd really like to try this at cask strength rather than at 43% and see what the differences are. And as I mentioned, I really want to try to get a bottle of the Glen Scotia Victoriana, which may be a pipe dream, I don't know, but I would really like to try that one as well. Both of these are really good. I'm going to choose Glen Scotia for tonight with a heavy heart for Highland Park because I really like this. I would definitely like to try more from the Highland Park line. Okay, so that's it for day 3. For day 4, our matchup is between Benromach 10-year and Jura 10-year, 2 that I have very little experience with, and so this will be a completely fresh comparison for me because I don't know either of those very well. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everybody.